Wow, thank you so much to all the presenters from today. What a power-packed day already. I love how our program has 4 components that work together to fuel a battle plan that empowers people to charge forward towards their goals. My name is Tracy Scarce, and I am beyond excited that I get the honor of spending some focused time with you, chatting about our first habit of transformational leadership. Lead from the future, act in the now. There's a reason it's habit number 1. This is the first of our habits of transformational leadership, and it gives me goosebumps just thinking about the awakening that will happen as we take a journey through this component today. Let me paint a picture of you, to you, of who I am. Introduce myself, if you will. My name is Tracy Scarce. I'm the mama of 3 beautiful girls and a super hunky husband and 2 dogs. That's my life. But I'm also a woman who has a burning desire for loving people all the way to healthy as they pursue the best versions of themselves. I thrive off meeting people where they're at and coming up with a plan to connect the dots from their current reality to their desired outcome. It fuels my heart. When I started my health journey 5 years ago, I was a wreck, my friends. I mean, holy smokes. I am not even sure how to summarize where I was, but I can tell you with all my heart that I needed every inch of what Optavia had to offer. I just didn't know it yet. You see, you think you're signing up for a diet or just to get healthy, but what's really happening is you're committing to a self-development program with weight loss as a component and a side effect. I have become complacent with the status quo, with the thought that life is what it is, and that the dreams that I had inside of me were going to die inside this 40-something hot mess of a body. That's where I was. But boy, was I wrong. I truly had stopped dreaming about what was possible and living from that beautiful right side of my brain, which fuels our imagination, and I was living in memory of failures, setbacks, hardships, memories of that girl who used to say she was made for more until I had silenced that voice inside of me. She didn't tell me that anymore. I basically got in my own way in such a big way. There was no me anymore. No dreams, no future, no excitement. I was just existing, and I certainly was not thriving. Enter Optavia. July of 2015, I started my health journey, and suddenly hope entered. After a couple of weeks, I started firing on all cylinders, feeling amazing. The voice started coming back. The belief in myself started coming back. It was such a good feeling. I was getting healthy, not just physically, but mentally as well. My head was clearing. I could see 2 steps in front of me. Something was birthed. I was on fire. I was feeling amazing, and everyone could see it. And guess what? They wanted to feel amazing too. With the vehicle of Optavia, I was able to offer them a gift and say, come get in this car with me. Let me lead you. Come on the ride with me. It sure is beautiful from the driver's seat. So now I'm feeling amazing, and this tribe of men and women are feeling amazing around me, and there's power in numbers. It's contagious. You can't keep it to yourself. You can if you're in your own way. But that's not what we do, friends. This is what we do. We believe in people before they even believe in themselves, like my coach did for me, and the coach before her, and the coach before him, and so on and so forth. Remember, if you know me, you know I'm the just love the people girl. So that became my anthem, and it can become yours too. Go ahead, for just a couple minutes, or maybe longer, borrow my belief for now. Soon it will become the belief for your own self. So let's get back to how I was feeling amazing. Everyone was feeling amazing. It was like a party. Imagine that. Everyone loves a good party, right? But you don't just show up to like a big, beautiful, amazing party and walk in the door. Someone's actually put a lot of work on to put that party on. So here comes the work that I had to learn to do. But around here, I don't call it work. I call it a privilege, a joy, a blessing to do what we do here at Optavia. But here's the key. We lead from the future and we act in the now. This is our very first habit. So let me get a little technical with you. Stay with me just for 1 minute. I normally don't use the big words, but I'm gonna drop some on you. Neuroimaging has shown that as we age, the center of cognitive gravity tends to shift from the imaginative right brain, the fun side, the imaginative side is the fun side, it's my favorite side, to the logical left brain, the not so fun side. And this neurological tendency, it kind of presents like a danger of sorts, like abort, abort, SOS. At some point, most of us stop living out of imagination and we start living out of memory. Instead of creating the future, we start repeating the past. Sound familiar? For my friends that are watching, put a 1 in the chat if you're like, yeah, that sounds real familiar. We just stop dreaming and we stop believing in ourselves. In the process, we just stop believing that we're in charge of our future. And I'm here to tell you, that is a lie and you should not believe it. Stop making up the story in your head because it's simply not true. Your future is amazing, and that is why we must lead from there right now through our actions. Lead from the future, act in the now. My hope for our time together today is that you learn that the art of dreaming is held in your own hand, and no one can take that from you. But we do need to do the actions that will lead to those dreams now. That's what most of us have a hard time with, right? But if we don't start now, if not today, when, my friends? If not today, when? Let's talk about dreaming. You know it's one of my favorite subjects. Dreaming for yourself, dreaming for your family, for your friends, for the world around us. Change starts with us. Isn't it easy to dream for everybody else and forget ourselves? But guess what? Who wins when I win? This is so important. Most of us have been conditioned to believe that it's selfish to dream. I'm here to tell you, you're nuts. It's not selfish. It's what you were created to do is dream, not just sit like a bump on a log and not dream or believe or achieve anything. That is not what you were created for. You were created to shine. But somehow we put our light out along the way. But today, we're gonna let your light shine bright again. What makes you smile? What brings you joy? What lights up your heart? What leads you to compassion or tears or action? Where is that? What do you really want more of? In life, really think about it. What wakes you up in the morning? Do more of that so you can feel alive again. Leading from the future and acting in the now is realizing your dreams and waking up as your future self and doing the actions that will get you to those very dreams. Only you have your dreams. No one else has your dreams because no one else is you. There's only one of you by design. If money and time were not a constraint, what would you do more of? What would you do? Where would you go? What would you create? Who would you become? The goal is to envision a future that's big enough for you to be willing to leave behind the thinking, the habits, the actions, the ways that no longer serve you. That left side of the brain that operates on negative memories and not your imagination, it's time to put that in check. So we say, bye-bye, negative self-talk. Deuces to the people that were talking about you and the memories that you have of them. See ya to the time in your childhood that someone loved you but told you that you couldn't achieve something. We don't need those memories anymore. It's your time to shine. This is your show right now, brothers and sisters. We're ready to go. I told you, you were in my car today, right? So who wins when you win? The answer is everyone. Because when you're thriving and you show up better, everyone around you is affected by it. Now you have your dream, right? The leading from the future part. We all have dreams. Let's talk about the acting in the now, the action. What do you need to accomplish this dream? What do you need to become? Who do you need to become? This is crucial because your identity matters. Who you are and who you are becoming is what we need to focus on. I'm right here with you. Let's do it together. What you believe about yourself matters, and who you need to become matters. I often say to people, don't look behind you. There's nothing for you there. We get stuck behind us. Why don't we need to go back there? Because we already learned that lesson and we are moving on. Let's talk about your identity. Your identity is your inner game that drives your outer game and what you believe about yourself. So identity plays a huge part in your actions that will get you to your future. Let me just get honest with you. A little unplugged, if you will. You may be sitting right now where you are, behind a viewing screen, at your computer, on your phone, and you're really unhappy with your identity. I'm just keeping it real. That's okay. Let your right brain take over, the fun part. You may be unhappy with what you think your future may hold. Do you remember when I told you to get in the car with me because Optavia was the vehicle? Y'all, we're driving, okay? We're driving to that future. And my foot is on the pedal because that's the only way I know how to do it these days. And I believe that you're smack dab in the middle of borrowing my belief. Don't forget that. And after I'm done speaking, don't let go of it either. Are you liking this ride? You better say yes, or I will come right through that screen and put you in the car myself. This is 2020, anything can happen. I'm grabbing you. We have all heard that we are capable of doing hard things. Did you know that it's actually a fact? But what about believing that we can do hard things? Do you believe it? You must learn to choose your thoughts and let them become your actions. So, what is the future you think? What is the future you do? How does the future you act? That's a hard one. It's a hard one. And it's not going to all change today. But this is the starting point. This is how you lead from the future and act in the now. Have you ever seen a mosaic art painting? The artist starts with a blank canvas and a bunch of tiny pieces of glass. To me, that feels overwhelming and stressful. But the artist chooses where to place those glass pieces, exactly where the artist wants them. The artist places everything they want and nothing that they don't. My pieces of my mosaic and how I will act will go here and here and here. My pieces of glass that reflect my dreams will go here and here and here. And if you have a lot of dreams, then those glass pieces are going to go in a lot of different places, and on and on and on. Are you following me here? The pieces of your mosaic art piece are coming together by you, the artist. You are a beautiful mosaic, my friends. Stop and think about that. Do you believe it? Once you start to dream again, you will stand back as the artist and see all the pieces that you placed and how they've all come together to create your future by acting in the now and placing those pieces into your life. Everything you need, and guess what? You're the artist, so nothing that you don't. As we continue to piece together this future, how does the old you and the new you deal with things differently? Those are huge victories. Take time to celebrate those things. It's part of your story. It's part of your future. Everything is part of your future. Let your future self coach you because you know what you need. Don't stand around coaching everybody else and not coach yourself. Let people that you trust speak into your life, mentor you. We are better together, my friends. So much better together. I heard Dr. A say it this morning. This isn't a solo journey. This is a journey about people, about creating your tribe and leaning into the process. Here's the goal. Are you ready? The goal is to choose to start believing in you, in the thoughts and in the actions that will take you to the future goals. I want to share with you something that I do to remind myself that I'm leading from the future, but acting in the now. I want to welcome you into my world and share with you what I share with the tribe around me, the Drop It Like It's Hot crew. But we're all one tribe because we're better together. Here's what I do. Actually, here's what my husband and I do. We grab a napkin. A napkin symbolizes starting from the beginning. You can get a napkin from anywhere. Take an old pen. We're starting from scratch. Take one side of that napkin and write your goals on it. Take the other side of the napkin and write your business or your professional goals on it. These are real things that you want to achieve. None of them are silly, none of them are too small, and none of them are too big. Why? Because they're yours. And you own them. There is no other napkin that's going to look like yours. No one in the world has the same dreams as you. No one. The napkin is a living, breathing document that you continue to add to. Now here's where the victory begins. It begins in the acting in the now. As you start checking off those goals, when we check off those goals, we create confidence. And when we create confidence, we create momentum. And when we create momentum, we create success and victory and celebration. When those things start to happen, you remind yourself of what we talked about earlier, that you can do hard things, not just me, we. Because you're checking them off, you're doing them, and that makes it a fact. Some of them are quick, some of them are longer, some of the things are small, and now they've gotten bigger. Why? Because you're doing them. You're done with the small stuff. Those things that seemed impossible now have a check mark through them, or a line, or however you like to do your checklist, because you did the hard things. You did it! And not only did you do them, now you're adding harder things and doing those, but it begins with starting. The starting starts with leading from the future what those goals and dreams are. Now we act. We cast votes for the new person, for the new you. Each choice is a vote for yourself. Fill out the ballot. Let me tell you something. In the real world, we don't rise to our dreams. We fall to our systems. We're in the Optavia world now. It's time to ditch the systems and start rising, my friends. Start rising. Start making all of your decisions from your future self at the beginning of the week, from that imaginative, fun, exciting part of your brain, the part that's fun and wants to move forward with you, not the part that keeps you stuck. It's time for growth. My kids didn't grow up without growing pains. When my kids were growing, it hurt. It woke them up at night and there were tears. This journey might look the same. Lean into it. Expect to have frustrations at times. Expect to be grown, stretched, and molded into that self that's gonna thrive. Be careful what you wish for, because all that you're wishing for is waiting for you on the other side as long as you do the work. However, you have to take the first step. Expect to lose motivation. In fact, plan for it. It will be hard. Reject perfectionism. It doesn't exist. And once you're okay with that, and you've given yourself permission to boogie on down the road and build trust with yourself, then you'll understand it's okay to let yourself down. The road to success is always under construction. My knees are bruised and my elbows are scratched. Scars are a beautiful thing because they are here to show you that you lived through it. You have overcome. Let me say it louder for the people in the back. You have overcome. I want you to say it out loud with me right now on the other side of that computer screen. You are an overcomer. I am an overcomer. You're going to lead yourself with your own future, with your own actions. It's the first habit for a reason. Lean into this habit, lean into other people's belief in you, and lean into that belief in yourself. If it is to be, it's up to me. As we end our time together and transition to the amazing story of Shirley Mast, who truly embodies this habit, let me leave you with this. You are a leader. You are a chain breaker. You are created to break the cycle of defeat and walk in victory. The world is waiting on you to take action. The world is waiting on you to step into who you are. Other people are waiting on your yes, people you don't even know. And as long as you keep going, the ripple effect will never stop. Imagine that in your head. Long after you're gone, the impact will remain. Keep dreaming until the day that you take your last breath. I dare you to train your imagination to overtake your memory. I dare you to choose to believe that you are built for hard things and amazing things. I dare you to be the driving force that creates your future and change the world. I want to leave you with one last thing. We are always better together. We were created to just love the people. The best is yet to come if you start acting, and forever leave a legacy for Lori's Army. Let's take a look at how Shirley designed her own future.
Eight years ago, my life was very different because it was very difficult for me to be physically out and active. I weighed close to 400 pounds, and I had resigned myself to the idea that I probably would not get to meet my grandchildren. My physician said to me, I really think you ought to take a look at this program. I think once I hit that 2-week point and I realized what I was going to be able to accomplish, I became just about euphoric. This was about lifelong transformation. I had never done anything like that before. I got so excited about digging into every part of the program so that I could get the best success possible. I started learning healthy habits, all of those things that go together to create optimal health. My life is not less stressful than it was before, but the way I respond to it is very different. As I learn to be mindful, as I learn to be fully present. Practicing those healthy habits with my grandkids is probably one of the sweetest gifts on this journey. All of that is because of what Optavia has done for me. I love the fact that I was doing this with a coach who was working one-on-one with me. He was an incredible support to me and also made sure I never had to go it alone. It was one of the things that drew me to coaching was the ability to pay it forward and to be able to help other people in the same way that my coach had helped me. I get to talk with people about what's important to them. In that process, I'm walking with them along that path, giving them the support and the tools that they need to be able to accomplish the goals that matter to them. That is deeply meaningful to me, and I love watching those transformations happen. Very early on in my business, my husband and I figured out that I didn't have enough hours in the day to coach thousands of people. We needed to bring on coaches. And so at that point, we really started getting intentional about finding the people that wanted to help people. We're all on the same mission. We're all impacting lives.
I love the fact that so many people are on this journey together, pursuing optimal health. If you experience this type of community and this type of transformation in your own life, how could you not share it with those around you? Somebody has to do that for you first, and that was Shirley and Cliff. Optavia found me, and I am so very grateful that it did.
Our team has impacted thousands of lives in a way that Cliff and I alone could not have possibly done. It never occurred to me that I would have people come to me, people that I don't even know, who say, because you made a difference, because you built a team, my life changed. It's an incredible ripple effect, and I love that we can impact so many people.
Amazing, Shirley. Hi, folks. I'm David Bush, and I'm delighted to be having this conversation with Shirley today. We've just heard about the habits of transformational leadership. And Shirley, I'm wondering, how did you apply that in your own health journey?
Oh, that's a great question, David. And I'll tell you, once I got really clear on what I wanted to create in my health, my vision of the future shaped my actions in the present. So here's what I mean by that. For instance, once I realized that I actually could have the health that I wanted to ride roller coasters again. I wanted to be able to get on an airplane and travel with my husband and actually fit in the seat. I wanted to be able to swing dance with my son. And more than anything, I wanted to not only live long enough to get to meet my grandchildren, but also to be the vibrantly healthy grandmother to them as they continue to grow up. And those visions made it really clear on what I needed to do in my present.
So you're saying that you could see your future clearly. So tell us, how did your future self guide your actions in your present?
Well, I was crystal clear on what I wanted. I could see it like it was happening today. And so then I just needed to take the action steps to get me there. And frankly, those action steps involved the 4 components of this program that we all heard about just a little earlier today. So I was in tight with my health coach. I stayed closely connected with him. In fact, I'm hearing from my health coach now on a regular basis. I started absorbing everything I could about the habits of health. Dr. A's Habits of Health, the Life book, there is so much in there that will help change the way you think. And when you change the way you think, everything else gets a lot simpler. So I absorbed everything related to that. And I also plugged in hard to this Optavia community. In fact, that's part of the reason why I decided to coach, because I figured if I coach, I'm probably more likely to stay healthy long term. And so I wanted to do everything I could, surround myself with healthy people. This Optavia community has been fantastic. And then, of course, the nutrition, these great fuelings, helped me create the physical health that I wanted.
Well, your physical health completely transformed, it's obvious. But I know that this health transformation has been far more than just a physical one for you. Were there ways that you led from the future and acted in the now, and how that affected your growth and a healthy mindset?
Yeah, you know, that's a great question, David, because that healthy mindset was so critical for me. Because, you know, there's a huge mental shift that comes when there's an area in your life in which you've always failed. And for me, it was in my health. And then you're able to create a win. And for me, Optavia helped me to create that win. And when that happened, I got clarity on who I wanted to be as a person, who I wanted to be as a wife, as a mother, as a grandmother, and who I wanted to be as a leader. And I realized that it was my thoughts that were holding me back. And if I was going to accomplish those goals, I needed to do some mental work too.
Well, Shirley, once you got that clarity, we're all curious, what did you do?
Well, you know, I had personal goals for who I wanted to be, but I also had professional goals. I knew I wanted to impact a lot of lives in the way that mine had been impacted. And by a lot of lives, I mean tens of thousands of them. And if I wanted to do that, I knew I needed to grow. And on that process, the Life book is so helpful. In fact, it continues to challenge my thinking. In there, you can learn how to control your mind, take control of your mind and make it work for you. And so what a lot of you are learning now in Dr. A's Habits of Health and in the Life book, I was learning some of that in a personal conversation with Dr. A one afternoon where we talked about the fact that my brain was going so fast that it really wasn't working well for me. And I learned to take charge of that. And when I did those things, I was more effectively able to see the steps that I needed to take in order to create the future that is my calling.
You and your team have indeed impacted thousands of lives, but on a more personal level, does your decision to lead from the future and act in the now impact future generations like your grandchildren?
Well, David, you know, my own childhood was rooted in generations of obesity. In fact, my youngest son followed me into obesity, but thanks to Optavia, he also followed me to health. In fact, he and his wife are now Optavia coaches. And so in our family, the grandchildren in our family are living in homes where healthy eating, healthy activity is the norm. When we have family dinners at Grammy and Pop-Pop's house, We have lean and green meals because I want my grandchildren to learn those healthy habits. I want to never have them experience some of the pain that I experienced because of my unhealthy habits. And honestly, David, I believe that we are on the path in our family to break that cycle of generational obesity, and it thrills me to death. And I want that not just for my family, but also for our country and for the world.
I know you've said that what you've learned from the Life book has also been applied by your granddaughter. Would you tell us a little bit more about that?
Did you just ask a grandmother to tell you about her grandchildren? We could be here all day, but I promise we won't be. You know, our grandchildren are still young. But already the oldest one that you just saw a few minutes ago in the video, she has already learned the value of, in the moment when emotions are high, and you all know that for toddlers, the emotions are often high, in that moment to stop, to take a deep breath, and to hopefully make the choice that will give her the best outcome. Maybe we call this stop, challenge, choose for toddlers. Her mama has taught her well on this. And honestly, I'm hoping that our little ones will see by what their parents are teaching to them, by what Cliff and I are modeling to them, that it really is possible for them to create a healthy future. It really is possible for them to make their own choices to create lives that have an impact. It's really possible for them to truly make a difference in this world. And when this happens, this grandmother's heart is going to be very happy.
It's been wonderful spending time with you, Shirley. Thank you so much for sharing your incredible journey, and we look forward to hearing more great things from you. We'll now be moving on to habit number 2. We take responsibility and we play above the line. To better explain this habit and how it can be transformational, let me turn it over to Jamil Frazier.
Hey everyone, wasn't that interview with Shirley just great? I'm so excited to be here with you today, and I could not think of a better topic to talk about today than a topic that has literally transformed my life, which is the second habit of the transformational habits of leadership. We take responsibility and we play above the line. You know, when I think about this habit, I like to think about my daughter Mila. And if you've ever heard me speak a lot, I talk about Mila a lot just because I don't know about you, but if you have any children at all, and especially if you have a middle child, Mila is our middle child. And you know that middle children tend to have this vibrant personality. But I want to tell you a story. About a year ago, Mila has this morning routine. She does it every morning. She's done it for about 4 or 5 years, to where she gets up out of her bed, she walks in, she wipes off her eyes, and she gets in bed with me and Mommy. And this particular morning, she got in bed, she snuggled, but we didn't really know what we were going to uncover. See, a few minutes later, we literally pulled back the covers, and to our surprise, Mila had taken pretty much every magic marker and every marker you could find in the house and decided to draw all over herself. So just imagine a 4-year-old child with every single color in the crayon box that's all over her face, all over her body, all over her legs. And so her mother and I said, Mila, what did you do? Mila said, Daddy, I didn't do it. We said, Mila, we know that you did it. How did this happen? She says, Daddy, I didn't do it. We gave her a third chance. We said, Mila, how did all these markers get over your body? She says, Daddy, my brother did it. It's not my fault. And so my wife and I had to turn and sort of hide our smile. And I don't know about you, if you're a parent, have you ever had to do that when your child says something that's absolutely crazy, but it's so funny that you have to turn around because you don't want to laugh? That's what we did. And so we knew that it was her fault. We knew that she had to take responsibility for it. But the funny thing about that story isn't really Mila's response. It's that she was a 5-year-old and it was funny. The unfortunate thing was I've been doing the same thing for my life all the way up until about 2015. And if I'm being honest, before 2015, my life pretty much looked like this. Basically, if it wasn't going well for me, it wasn't my fault, and I found something to blame, and I found someone to blame. just like Dr. Ray has come out, I had a doctoral degree and I had a PhD, and it was an honorary degree from the School of Life. I literally have spent 10,000 hours perfecting my skills in one particular area, and that area was blame, justification, pointing the fingers, and having a deep-rooted philosophy of, just like Mila, it's not my fault. See, if we could dive in a little bit more, I want to give you just a glimpse of my upbringing and my story all the way until 2015. See, I grew up poor, but right away it was the government's fault. It was my drug addict of a dad's fault. It was my alcoholic mother's fault. Kids poked fun at me when I was playing in the playground. It was the principal's fault. They aren't doing a good enough job governing the playgrounds. See, I got poor grades in school, but it was my teacher's fault. They always treated me unfairly. I wanted badly to play football with all of my buddies, but I always had to play in a higher division because I couldn't make the weight requirements. See, it was the league's fault. They shouldn't have made such unfair and biased rules. When I moved to high school, my high school sweetheart, she broke up with me. She said God was leading her in a different direction, so it was God's fault. My life ambition was about one thing and one thing only, and that was receiving a football scholarship to play at a four-year university. 4 years into my junior season of high school, I led the area of rushing and rushing touchdowns, attempts, and even yards. In the fifth game, I suffered a terrible ankle injury that kept me out the whole season practically. I blamed the equipment managers, if you can believe that. They should have taped my ankles better. In 2010, years later, my wife got pregnant with our first son. And for me, it was an unwanted pregnancy. I told her that. See, I wasn't ready for that level of responsibility, but she was, and she decided to keep the baby. I immediately fell into one of the deepest, darkest depressions you can think of. Now, this lasted for 2 years. See, it was my wife's fault. How could she try to ruin my life like this? In 2012, I found Optavia. See, during my depression, I ate my feelings, which of course was my wife's fault. I became the heaviest I've ever been before, and I was absolutely miserable at how I looked, how I felt, and how I viewed myself. Now, I know I'm probably the only one out there that's ever felt that way, but every time I tried to become victorious over my physical health, I ultimately took 2 steps backwards. Now, don't laugh when I say this, because I'm saying it from my heart, but I honestly blame my son for that. It was my son's fault. In my first 3 weeks on program, I saw tremendous results. I felt vibrant. I've never experienced anything like that in my entire life. But week 4 came around, and I did the opposite of what my coaches suggested for me to do. And I didn't lose any weight that week. See, it was my coach's fault. They didn't guide me well enough. And I almost quit that week because the program didn't work. So this brings me to some numbers that are really important along my journey. The first number is 15. May 15th, 2012, I became an independent Optavia coach. The next number is 8. We fast forward a year from there to May 2013. See, I was passionate about helping other people change their lives, passionate about serving the community, but about 8 months into that year, my business started to decline. And this went down for months and months and months. It was one of the hardest things for me to realize and for me to deal with. Of course, this was my wife's fault and my mentor's fault. They were not helping me enough, didn't provide me with enough support. My wife was against me coaching, and my mentors spent the majority of their times helping other people who were more important. If they would have just supported me better, I could have been more successful. Now, don't laugh when I'm saying this, because this is where I actually was. Now, fast forward, October 2015. I heard for the first time a philosophy that challenged everything that I knew to be true. It challenged my PhD. It challenged my paradigms. It forced me to reevaluate my life. It literally changed my life. It was a one-part harmony of a 6-part system. It said, in short, we take responsibility. We play above the line. That one autumn evening, my world was shaken up. I literally had to start thinking, so wait, you mean to tell me it wasn't my dad's fault? It wasn't my mom's fault? It wasn't the state of California's fault? It wasn't my son's fault? It wasn't my wife's fault? Or my football coaches? Or God's? Or my mentors? But it was my fault. That, I gotta tell you, was a hard pill to swallow. I mean, many of the things really weren't my fault. It wasn't my fault that I was born in poverty. And you know what? That's true. However, what I started learning was, now that those events happen, now that that reality is set in, it is my responsibility on how I'm going to handle it. It is my responsibility to own it. It is my responsibility to understand that this, in fact, is not happening, as Dr. A said, to me, but is happening for me. See, that was a new thought construct for me. So I had to start to understand that it is my job to play above the line. I got to tell you, I didn't even know that there was a line. And so here comes the evolution. So what does the evolution look like? So now that I know it's Jamil's job to take responsibility and to play above the line, how does that actually start to play out? How many of you guys have gone to the car and you help somebody, get groceries out of the car, and you open up the back trunk, and all of a sudden, bags of groceries land on the floor, shatter all over the place? Has that ever happened to you? How many of you guys have ever opened up the refrigerator door and a cup of ice or milk or a carton of yogurt or something falls out and spills all over the floor? That's happened to me too. Now, years ago, what I would have said was, this isn't my fault. And I would have literally gone into every single bedroom in the house to find out who left a cup of ice on the edge of the refrigerator. The evolution comes to, now that same event is my fault. Big time difference. So it's my fault because there's a myriad of things that I could have done differently. I could have opened up the door slower, knowing that we have 3 kids, and kids do the things that kids do. I could have bought new cup containers that had lids on them, so when the kids wanted water or ice, it actually didn't spill all over the place. So now I'm deciding to eat healthier. Any of you guys ever go on a health journey? Now, my wife, who's in charge of grocery shopping, continuously buys all the snacks that tend to trigger me. Before, I would get upset with her because she's not supporting me. Why doesn't she ever respond to my request not to buy those items, knowing I'm not strong enough? But now, she's an advocate of mine. What? Completely different. See, now she knows that not having adversity is not actually a part of the real world. Her job is to be an ally of mine and force me to strengthen in areas to be able to remain abstinent from those temptations. How about any of those that have ever worked with clients? My passion is helping clients really reach their optimal health. But what happens if a client pushes their order back? Which is totally fine to do. I mean, it's their program. But years ago, that would have led me down a path of great frustration. And now I have learned to change that. See, now I realize that that's my fault. Maybe not that they pushed their order back, but it's my fault that I allowed that to trigger me in such a way that actually, ruined my day, or ruined my energy, or ruined my ability to have a functional conversation with the next person. See, I need to learn to actually refrain from the situation and change my mindset about it. So these are the things that actually start shifting to going from it's their fault to now taking complete responsibility for it. So above the line, what does that actually mean? Once I realized that there was a proverbial line that Dr. A showed in the slideshow earlier, That's when my life started to change. See, I realized that much of my life was living below the line. My PhD was in blame, denial, excuses, victimhood, staying stuck, constantly seeing problems and obstacles, and I love to find fault. I was so good at it. Just think of the person that you know that's the best in any industry. I was the best in placing blame. You could not find someone that was better than me. So I had below the line thinking, below the line behaviors, attitudes, and philosophies. So I hungered to change that. I wanted above the line thinking and behaviors. I wanted to see possibilities, own my own outcomes, seek solutions, be open and curious. I wanted to take action, not be a victim. So I started to realize that this company didn't care so much about ranks, and its agenda wasn't even really about weight loss or mental health. It was about creating conscious leaders. Woo! And conscious leaders were the only thing that would change this world. So I want to leave you with this poem. One of my favorite people to study from the 20th century is a woman by the name of Portia Nelson. Portia Nelson was born in 1920. She was an actor, she was a singer, she was a writer, and she was progressive at a time where it wasn't very cool for women to be progressive. And at the end of her life, they asked her, if you could sum up your life in 5 chapters, what would you say? And I want to share those with you now. So she wrote this beautiful poem called There's a Hole in the Sidewalk. So it goes like this. Chapter 1, I walk down the street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I'm lost. I'm helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Chapter 2, I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place. But it isn't my fault. It still takes me a long time to get out. Chapter 3, I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk, but I see it's there, but I still fall in. It's a habit. My eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault, and I get out immediately. Chapter 5, I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. I'm sorry, chapter 5. That was chapter 4. Here's chapter 5. I simply decide to walk down a new street. Once I started understanding that I had the ability to take back my own superpower, which was taking complete responsibility and playing above this proverbial line, then everything changed. Optavia not only saved my life, but saved my marriage and the future of my children. And so in closing, it's hard to believe that we've wrapped up another outstanding session of Optavia Together Live. We're so happy that you've tuned in, and we're looking forward to our final segment in just a bit. We'll see you there.